I'm sure that you have every one of your passwords memorized and you can recite them ad infinitum whenever people ask. Or is it that you're using a password manager to remember them all for you? Is there a better way to make sure that we're more secure in incorporating things like public private keys and multi factor authentication? In this episode of the Tech Field Day podcast, passkeys are the future. Welcome to the Tech Field Day podcast, where we bring together a group of IT technical experts to discuss a single idea about key concepts in the enterprise IT industry. This podcast features a variety of perspectives from members of the Tech Field Day delegate community and is often recorded in association with one of our events. Tech Field Day is a part of the Futurum Group, and this podcast is also published on our sister company's site, TechStrong TV. In this episode, as we're heading into Security Field Day, we will be discussing passkeys and how they make security much easier. Before we do that, though, let's have our guests introduce themselves.
Hey, Tom, thanks. I'm Alan Shimel, the founder and CEO of TechStrong Group, the people behind DevOps.com, Security Boulevard, Cloud Native Now, TechStrong TV, TechStrong AI, TechStrong IT, Digital CXO. I don't know. And we're part of the Futurum Group, which makes us a sister company with our friends at Tech Field Day.
Tom, thanks. My name is Kate Scarcella. I've been a part of cybersecurity for a very, very long time. I don't have all those exciting things that Alan does. I'm actually coming back from a sabbatical that I took off, and I'm happy to be back. And I'm part of the CD Foundation, the chair of Cybersecurity SIG, and I'm very much into everything secure.
Awesome. And of course, I'm Tom Hollingsworth, an event lead here at Tech Field Day. Let's jump into the premise for today's episode ahead of Security Field Day. No doubt that when you woke up this morning, you had to type a password into your device somewhere, whether it was a PIN code into your phone or something alphanumeric into your device of choice. And wouldn't it just be better if we could get rid of that? Because I know that I have way too many of those, and I'd just like to have less that I need to worry about. That's the promise of something called a passkey, which is a type of security that will allow you to use things that you have and authenticate to that device as opposed to having to remember the various passwords that I have for everything. I happen to like them, and I know that at least one of our guests does. So the premise for this episode is that passkeys are the future. So Alan, you are an outspoken proponent for passkeys. I was wondering if you could tell our audience very quickly, what is it about passkey technology that's better than a password in your mind?
Well, Tom, I'll tell you, I didn't type in a PIN or a password this morning when I got on my phone, my iPad, or my iMac, or even looked at my watch, because I do use passkeys. And so a quick facial scan, a fingerprint on the keyboard, or I am actually, full disclosure, a customer of 1Password, and I use that for passkeys as well. And I log into, well, I don't want to give out too much security info because I've been in the security game a long time too, but I do use 1Password passkeys to log into various applications that I use. And it makes life easier. There was another password manager I used for a number of years that unfortunately was the victim, through perhaps no fault of their own, of several data breaches. And as a result of that, I said, I have to move. Whether it's their fault or not, there's big hash balls of my passwords that are waiting for quantum computing for someone to crack and take everything I own. So I moved to 1Password a couple of years ago, and at that time, I remember looking how many passwords I had. And granted, I'm a freak, I'm a tech geek, and I get all that. But if I told you I had over 350 passwords stored in 1Password, right? 350 passwords. I don't know if people out there, if you have more or less about the same, that's a lot of passwords to remember. And so if you don't have a password manager, you are reusing passwords, you're not using hard passwords, you're an accident waiting to happen. You're the zebra waiting, saying, I hope the lion doesn't get me today.
Yeah.
And Alan, I want you to change those passwords every 90 days.
Exactly. Every quarter. Exactly. Come on, that's crazy. That no one's doing it. We all know no one's doing this. We all know. Yeah. And so passkeys to me are a way around this, right? It, it, whether it's biometrics or what have you that it's using, the fact that I don't have to remember 350 passwords that I change every 90 days is a godsend, right? This is, I can't see why anybody would say no.
And I agree with you that the what passkeys offer is a combination of a bunch of different things that we've been trying to get people to use over the years, right? You have a password, but you also have some kind of a physical token. In which case, a lot of times it's maybe it's a trusted device like a phone or some other kind of token that you hold on to, and that provides that second factor because we still have a lot of people out there who don't use two-factor authentication or they use the bare minimum, right? Like, oh, well, I'll just have it text me whenever I need to log in or which authenticator app am I using again? You know what? I'll just store all of my authentication tokens in the cloud because those will never get compromised, right?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, Kate, I was wondering maybe you could kind of tell us, your perspective on passkeys as far as, what is the value to an enterprise that maybe is considering deploying them at scale? Because I know for personal use, it's great, but
Yeah.
personal use past about 3 or 4 people kind of starts to be problematic.
Yeah. Well, from a cybersecurity point of view, you're going to have stronger security, less phishing risk, right? Um, no weak and reused, passwords. So that's, number two. Number three, just you want the experience to be seamless. And that's what one password would, it- you know, a password manager should do. It should be seamless. And so there's just this better user experience, which is very important. And at the end of the day, there is a cost savings here, on operational improvements. So cost savings from the, reduction in a support load, oh, I forgot my password. I mean, gosh, we've been dealing with that, I think, for 25 years, right? Um, so having a password manager is, would help in an overall cost savings.
And I think we're seeing that with a lot of companies where they're trying to create a frictionless environment. Like how many times have we gone to log into something recently and we put in a username or an email and it said, "Hey, we just mailed you a magic link to verify that you are who you say you are." And that way we don't have to deal with this anymore and just click the box that says this is a trusted device unless it's on a public computer. Is it what's the value that a company gets out of reducing friction with the user base by implementing things like passkeys or magic links?
So from my point of view, it's just um, it's not cybersecurity is always seen, especially with passwords, has always been a security bump, right? We are making something difficult that should be easy, and so what I see is just people adapting more to something that will help in the future. That's a good for them. Like this is good for you to do, and so the more seamless that we make this, the more frictionless, the more adoption that people will take.
I think there's two things I'd add to that. Number one, as we've highlighted, we're kidding ourselves if we think people who have lots of passwords are changing them every 90 days, are not reusing passwords, are following good password hygiene. And so if they're not, we're creating risk to our organization. Secondly, I will tell you the amount of time that I used to spend, and some days, unfortunately, I still do, hitting the forgot my password, reset my password, use a no auth from Facebook, LinkedIn, or Facebook, Google, or Apple. The amount of time sunk into doing that is really disgusting, to tell you the truth. Another thing, though, that I like about using the password manager and passkeys is from an organizational point of view. Tom, let's say I need you to log into an asset, a corporate asset. I'm going to give you access, right? But I want to be able to control that access. Like, you can only come in for today or for the next week. You can't change the password. Here's the unique token, if you will. Here's a unique username and password I'm giving you to use on this asset for the next week because you're a contractor, maybe. And then after that, it doesn't work anymore. That is such an inherently more powerful tool at my disposal to help secure my corporate assets, my IP, my crown jewels, than just saying, "Oh, let me give you a password and username," or having you go off and create one on your own that I have no control over. And again, another reason that's not a pass key per se, but it's another reason why password managers are for me a uh, indispensable. If you're not using them, you're not serious about security.
And I think you're right. And I think while you said that it's not a pass key necessarily, it's a component of pass keys. And there's more to the pass key phenomenon that makes it a valuable implementation of modern technology. One of the things that I think that cannot be understated is the fact that most pass keys rely on things like secure enclaves, which
Yeah,
we really haven't had up until just a few years ago. There's a secure enclave on a mobile device or on most devices now that have a TPM, because most devices that we use do have that. And it's never been an option before because we've never really focused on advanced cryptography and things like that. But like you said, if I create those key pairs and I know that something happens, like let's just say, Alan, that your identity gets leaked or someone is able to grab that information, I can invalidate that fairly quickly and ensure that nobody's able to use it to log in anywhere else and make you regenerate that and kind of start over. Like that is kind of one of the things that security people have been asking about for years is how can, in the event of a disaster, in the event of a breach, how can I lock things down so that I know that I'm not fighting my attackers while I'm trying to triage the problem?
yeah, yeah. Or at
Yeah.
least limit, right? And we're going to freeze it right there. Here's the funny thing. Everyone I know in security, and I've been in security 30 years, everyone knows that passwords is a failed technology for all of the reasons we stated. And I've met so many entrepreneurs, really bright, smart entrepreneurs who have tackled big problems, who said, I'm tackling this problem. I'm going to put an end to passwords. And yet, it's still the default. It's still the default. I don't know. I mean, we could talk here about passkeys till the cows come home. I don't know what it takes to get people off the password.
I think what it's going to take is people who are supporting them just deprecating them. Like we've seen that with Microsoft, right? Where they're removing support for passwords in their authenticator app, but they're going to leave passkey support enabled. And we've brought people along in degrees because now it's not just password, it's password and two factor. Like for example, when you join an organization and they want you to log into Slack, now it could be that the default is that you have to create a two factor authentication, the infamous print this paper out and just in case you ever get something happens, because we want to get people thinking in that method. And the more we do that, to me it's no different than unsecured Wi-Fi or making your password Cisco 123. Like we've got to get people away from that idea that I can just do something quick about this. And I know it's going to be hard for a lot of older folks. I'm not throwing shade on anybody, but my father-in-law has his Windows 10 box set to automatically log itself in every time he starts it because I don't want to have to type a password in whenever I get up in the morning. Whereas me, I get nervous if there's a computer that's just sitting there, not at a login prompt when I'm not sitting in front of it. But that could also be my IBM training kind of leaking through where it's like, an unsecured device is just an opportunity for chaos. Do we think that the upcoming generation, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, just kind of assume that passkeys and more advanced multi-factor authentication are what is the standard? And as more people kind of move on with their technology, they just don't think about it because this is all they've ever known?
So I do, so I'm the dad of two boys, 26 and 24. And I will tell you that my two sons And I've raised them, their dad was a cyber dude. So they've been raised uh, enriched in this culture. They all use multi-factor when they can and passkeys when they can. They find it much more convenient to just text stuff back and do stuff like that. Speaking of my sons, I will tell you, when he was in 8th grade, we did a science project where we made up a phishing letter, sent it to his classmates and their parents and his teacher, telling them, that the class roster got, I don't know, something happened, but you had to go in and change your password. And we sent them to a lookalike page with a closely resembling URL. I got 40% of the class parents to give me their passwords. We sent them back and said, hey, this was a science project, literally. And I was working with a company out of Carnegie Mellon password uh, password training program. And they were nice enough to give me the training program for his class and their parents and their teachers. And I went in and taught them a little password hygiene. But this is, Tom, what the most popular password manager in the world is? Notepad.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Your father-in-law probably keeps all his passwords in his Notepad or Notes app or something like that.
Or on
I,
a sticky note underneath his
Or a
computer.
sticky note.
I can neither confirm nor deny
No, we're not going to out him here or dox him or anything, but
yeah.
That's the most popular password manager in the world. And until we get past that, we got issues.
We do. But the good news is that the technology has come a long way, even in
Yes.
the past 5 years, to allow that kind of thing. Because like you said, most of the time, unless your laptop or your tablet's been sitting for more than 24 hours, you can just use your face, use your thumbprint, use some kind of biometrics to be able to get into it. I imagine coming soon that a lot of this is just going to be it's going to be seamless pass through security. Oh, well, we can identify who you are based on these things, and you're good. And we've even seen crazy, like, future tech stuff. Like, if anybody's seen Mission Impossible, was it Rogue Nation, where it's like gait analysis, like we can verify that you're not trying to impersonate somebody. That's a little bit further down the road, but I promise you that whatever that gate hash value is going to be stored in a secure enclave, and the guards are probably going to have to log into that
Yeah,
workstation with a
no,
passkey.
I remember a company out of MIT biometrically that they would, everyone types uniquely. Like you type TOM, you have a certain cadence that you use when you type that. And they were able to see if it's really you by just the way you type your name. And so, but here's the rub. We've had technology for this for a long time. It's 2025. We're going to 2026. What percentage of users are using passkeys or biometrics, right?
So, Kate, I think Alan brings up some really good points. We've had all these technologies that exist for a long time. I mean, if you really want to get down to it, the heart of a passkey is really just a public-private key pair. Alice is sending Bob more email, like we've always done. What is it about passkeys that makes it more, I don't know, consumable for people? Why do you think that now is the time that we've finally gotten momentum to get people off of it?
I think you're seeing the technology as Alan spoke about. It's easier. We've come a long way. I mean, it wasn't this easy. I don't know, maybe even 2 years. It has changed a lot in 2 years. So that is, I think ease of use will always be the key. Sort of say this. I think that's the biggest deal. I think when we don't see cybersecurity as a roadblock, when we see that we're able to do something without it costing us a headache, a time, trying to figure things out, and the old way being more time consuming, more of it, more of this, I forgot my password to, I don't know, Instagram, and you get all the back and forth. That's a headache. That becomes a pain. So I think as we see this other new technology that is seamless. I love that word. Frictionless is another word I love. I think it will be more adopted by us and by companies as well.
Kate, I think you're absolutely right. The real value in passwords for the longest time has been the fact that we have spent so much time getting them as frictionless as possible. Yeah, there's the 8 characters or more, special character, capital letter. That has increased the friction that we've had, but it's just forced people to become more familiar with ways to make themselves more secure without realizing it. And passkeys take it one step further by building in all of the good password hygiene and good security hygiene that we've been trying to teach people for years. Passwords that you don't even know, or multi-factor authentication. And in doing so, we've moved people to the point where the friction is as reduced as possible for the things that they need to use. And that means that people are more willing to adopt these new ideas. If you remember how hard it is to get people to develop multi-factor authentication, if you just tell them, click on your phone and authenticate this, or if you've ever had them use some kind of an online payment system where they can use their smartwatch or smartphone to authenticate a credit card transaction, they see the value in what it provides. And that is why passkeys have a very bright future. I want to thank everyone for joining us for this episode of the Tech Field Day podcast. If you enjoyed this discussion, please make sure that you subscribe on our YouTube channel or in your favorite podcast application so you don't miss any of our episodes. We'd love it if you'd give us a rating and a review, because that really does help people find this content and lets them know what we're all about here. This podcast is brought to you by Tech Field Day, which is the home for IT experts from across the enterprise. Tech Field Day is a part of the Future Room Group. For upcoming events and more episodes, make sure you head over to techfieldday.com/podcast or check us out on TechStrong TV and the TechStrong TV app. Thank you very much for listening in. We'll see you next week.